Good morning. Welcome to today's Family Matters Show. I'm Jeff Rehmeyer. I'm an attorney and and president at the CGA law firm. Historically, my practice involved estate planning and administration, business, and real estate. Now I'm focusing on estate planning to include planning for young adults. On today's show, we have Mary Kay Bernosky. Hi, Mary Kay.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Certainly. We're going to be talking about protecting and supporting your family. Specifically, we're going to have an emphasis today on seeking scholarships and maximizing scholarship opportunities from the perspective of a community foundation. So by way of short background on Mary Kay, she is the Vice President of Development for the York County Community Foundation. She brings a law degree from the College of William and Mary and an MBA in nonprofit leadership from Alvernia University. Previously, Mary Kay was the former CEO of Safe Berks, a nonprofit agency serving victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. While there, she built relationships with hundreds of donors to raise more than $4 million to construct a new comprehensive and sustainable facility to house the myriad of Safe Berks services, including emergency shelters. She also led the organization through strategic planning. On a personal note, Mary Kay likes reading and being outside, which is a wonderful thing to do this time of year in Pennsylvania. And she does spend a lot of time supporting our community. So thanks again for being here, Mary Kay.
Thank you.
Could you take a few minutes, and I did give a summary, but help us understand how you got through all that and how you ended up here with us?
Sure. Well, I went to law school right out of college and wanted to practice. And I practiced in private practice for about 3 years, did business, commercial, and then went to county government. So I actually worked for Schuylkill County government as a full-time solicitor. And there I got an opportunity to do a lot of different things: real estate, tax assessment, zoning. Schuylkill County is a small fourth-class county. And so we had countywide zoning. So there was a lot of zoning that was on a county level. So it was, and then I also had some labor practice and things like that. And at the same time, I was volunteering in the community for Schuylkill Women in Crisis, which was a domestic violence organization. And I really found that my passion was for the organization and that mission. And that's when I went back and got my MBA in nonprofit organization and leadership. And the opportunity came to work at what was then Berks Women in Crisis. It became Safe Berks after I took the helm, and we did some strategic planning and decided the name was not indicative of the services that we provide, which was not just about emergency shelter and crisis, but prevention and legal supports and all of the things that I'm sure a lot of people are aware of for domestic and sexual violence. And I did that for about 15 years. Have been married for almost 30 now, and my husband was commuting from Wyomissing to York to work at BAE. And so we did that for about a decade. And then when the youngest graduated from high school, decided that we would make the move into the York community. So I was looking for an opportunity to build on what I had learned at Safe Berks. And what I had learned was that a lot of these issues are so complex and have so many different issues that intersect, that we really need a community response to ensure that people are safe and have the sufficient income and what they need to thrive. And the York County Community Foundation does an excellent job in looking at those community needs. Is obviously very donor centric and wants to do what donors are interested in, finding their passion, but also community centered and looking at the issues that face the community. So this really fit with my view of how to do community improvement and how do we ensure that all people have the ability to thrive and live safe and productive lives.
That's a fantastic answer. And we met and spoke before, but I didn't realize all those connections. So the commute and geography helped draw you here.
Yes.
And now that I know that you served as a county solicitor, I have an appreciation for the type of issues you dealt with. And while that's fun and terrific stuff, it's not quite the same as the impact you had with that foundation. So that's excellent background and helpful to understand that experience. And I'm certainly sure that all those legal experiences help you deal with donors and help you really interface in your role too.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And understanding their passion, because people give because they care.
Okay. Well, help me understand, what's a typical day like for you at the office, and maybe we'll just talk now. What's it like now? Before
Well,
we.
right now, other people are in the office and are at our staff meeting, but I am here talking with you. But we spend our time, again, talk a lot of things that people do. I'll be talking with donors, talking to them about creating funds, what they're interested in, things like that. So I spend a lot of my time with that outward facing, talking with donors and educating them about what opportunities are available for their charitable giving. Your county is a great place to live, and there's a lot of things that people want to support. So, whether we're talking about preserving agricultural heritage, the recreational outdoor space, like you said, I love to be outside. I live next to the trail, so I am always on the rail trail, and all of those other experiences. Or is it cultural, musical, artistic things? The symphony, the youth symphony, all the things that are available here, the Appel Center, and just talking to them about what they wanted to um, support. Where are they're passionate, and of course
Mhm.
also the needs of the community, the human needs, shelter, housing, income, those things that people are interested. And then we also work on how to educate the community about grants and things that are available. So right now, scholarships are a big thing. Layla, our scholarship manager, is now working with schools in getting the words out about scholarships, getting applications in, and making those determinations.
Okay. So I know we're on the back end, hopefully, of the pandemic, which affected some
I
of
hope so.
of how things were. But if you had to look back a little bit beyond that, has there been any sort of evolution or trends developing in charitable giving that you would point out at this juncture?
I would. I think there's a couple of things. And some of it is COVID related. So the use of technology and the use of crowdfunding has become um, very prevalent. So in a couple of days, we'll have Give Local York. That's an online fundraising effort for the community. And I think people are seeing that and being part of that and participating in those types of fundraisers more. Also, I think with some of the charitable deductions having gotten rid of the, you know, expanding the exemption and limiting the amount of people that are doing actual itemization for charitable deductions, what we're finding, at least, in the first year of this, is that although the amount of money going to charity is still increasing, maybe not keeping up with inflation now because inflation has
Mhm.
overtaken what we had expected, but the number of households participating is smaller. So we're seeing giving concentrated again in the wealthier households. And that's something we want to keep an eye on because we want people to be able to give and to support the causes that they want wherever they are and have opportunities for everyone to be able to support those causes so that there's a diversity of things that we're funding. So those are things that we have been paying attention to and are trying to work through with we have a state association, PACFA, Pennsylvania Association of Community Foundations, that is working on those issues and making it easier to make charitable contributions, trying to allow the required minimum distribution to go to a DAF, for example, a donor advised fund.
Mhm.
Because people find donor advised fund as a good way to make their gifts. And we see that as a good way for donors to become educated. They can use that donor advised fund to make significant gifts in the community that they otherwise could not if they were making those gifts, just annually with what's available. So things like that.
Hmm. Excellent. So you alluded a little bit with regard to technology and the changes. Um, could you talk a little bit about the endowments at the York County Community Foundation, just big picture, and then we'll start to zero in on student-related items?
Sure. So the Community Foundation now has over $200 million in assets. We were about $211 million as of the end of 2021, and over 650 different funds. And we have a various type of funds. Some are donor advised, as I mentioned. So the donor is making recommendations about where that funding goes annually. We have designated funds where a donor has one, two, or more particular 501c3 tax exempt entities, whether they be in York or anywhere else in the country, that they want to support. And that grant goes every year from that designated fund. We also have field of interest funds, where people like the Andersons create funds to support agriculture in the community. And they give out grants that are determined by a committee who look at what the issues are and what applications are available, what community groups and organizations are asking for funding. And they also give scholarships as well. The Andersons have a scholarship for York students who are going to Penn State for agricultural sciences to keep that farming heritage in the community. And then we have our more unrestricted funds, which is our fund for your county and our funds for Greater Hanover, where we use that funding to support the needs in the community. So, for example, we used the fund for your county to seed our COVID response. So when COVID was happening, we saw that there was a number of organizations struggling to meet the needs of serving the community that had been exacerbated. You probably saw the lines of people who had never before needed to look for support to get food for their families, now in lines to get food from the food bank. So we were able to partner with the United Way and have the COVID fund, which we seeded with funds for your county, and made over $1 million available for that immediate response in the community. And those are needs that no one could have anticipated in even February of 2020. I don't think we would have known that.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot. Just so I would know, how big is the infrastructure at the foundation? How many people are there now to help get all this done?
We have 15 staff members. So our community impact and grants program has 4 individuals. Adrian Buckner is our newest member. He's the vice president of community impact. And this year, through a strategic planning process, we created Thrive grants, where we're looking at the issue of income, sustainability, and mobility. So making sure that people have the access to what they need to create and sustain income levels that are sustainable for families. So that's a broad lift, right? So that could be anywhere from childcare to housing, to after school programs, but whatever it is that helps people, have the income that they need to maintain their family in a healthy way in your county. So those are new grants that we're doing, and we're doing a lot of programs online to educate people about those grants. And we even had a webinar where we talked with someone from the Federal Reserve about how important that income sustainability is and what that impact means, and had very York specific information to share.
Excellent.
That was only half of your question. So we have our community impact, and then of course we have our finance people. We have Donna Jones. I'm sure you know Donna, who has been the controller here at the Community Foundation for 28 years. And we're so very fortunate to have her. But we also have an assistant controller and our financial administrator. We're in the process of hiring a chief financial officer. As you know, George Dvoriak retired after many, many years of service here at the York County Community Foundation. We also have our communications department, Sarah and Rabia, and they are out there, doing social media and telling our story. So very soon you'll see our annual meeting is coming up in May 10th at Keystone Kid Space, my first live annual meeting since I joined the Community Foundation over 2 years ago. So very excited. And then our annual report where we talk to the community about the impact that we're making. And then of course we have our development staff, which is myself, Phil Woods, and we have a new development administrator, and Ross Noller, who just joined us, and she had many years with T. Rowe Price Charitable and also the Baltimore Community Foundation. And of course, Jane and Edie, our CEO, who is, a convener and out in the public a lot and trying to, make the community the best place that it can be, and make sure that the Community Foundation is here to meet the needs of both our donors and the community that we're serving.
Outstanding. Mm. Well, $211 million is awesome.
Yes.
Um, so
Yeah.
I've been enjoying
Still fourth
witnessing.
largest community foundation in Pennsylvania, just behind Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Erie. And that says a lot about the generosity of the York community.
Yes, it does. Well, speaking of generosity, what sort of scholarship opportunities are you aware of for students heading to college? You referenced the Andersons a little while ago. Can you talk about some others and provide an overview for me?
Absolutely. And we have two different types of scholarships. So I would encourage families to go on our website because we have some scholarships that are field of interest scholarships where donors create a scholarship and we have an internal committee that makes those selections. So they
Mhm.
create a scholarship either for a particular field of study or to support a student who've had a tremendous amount of community involvement or athletic achievement. You know, there are various different opportunities for that. But we also work with our Dollars for Scholars organizations. We have 13 different partner agencies like Dallastown Dollars for Scholars, where people create funds here at the Community Foundation, and we give a grant every year to those Dollars for Scholars organizations, and then they give those grants in their school community. So we have two different types of scholarships, direct scholarships that come from us, and then scholarships that go through and work through our Dollars for Scholars. And then we have an opportunity through FIA to participate in what's called the Partnership for Access for Higher Education, or the PATH
Mhm.
program, where there might be matching grants available for some community organizations, foundations, to be able to match scholarships through FIA. So that's always also something that I would encourage people to look at on our website and those opportunities. Um, so yeah, and again, we have another scholarship, for example, for dentists, people going to dental school or dental hygienists. That was created in 1999 by the Dental Society to honor Tom Adams, George Lamont, and a member of their auxiliary. Her name was
Mhm.
Jo Hunger, who also did a loan program for dentists to go to school. So again, there can be some niche areas, and then there are some broader scholarships available for students. And a lot of scholarships are also available based on financial need.
So if I had a student heading to college, I would want to check locally at my high school. That might get me a Dollars for Scholars opportunity or something similar with something very local. But then I
Correct.
can check your website to start to
Absolutely.
see what scholarships would be available based upon my need, my students' need, my students' interests
Correct.
as well.
Correct. And there might be some scholarships for particular institutions, like the Anderson Scholarship is for Penn State
Hmm.
University as well. So depending on the institution that you're applying to, there might be private scholarships that are available for that institution. One thing I would also ask people to just pay attention to, and this is something that's been talked about, um, for a lot of universities, there's the cost of the tuition, correct? There's the tuition and fees, and then there's the financial aid package that the school offers to students based on family income. And
Hmm.
sometimes they look at private scholarships and reduce the amount of financial aid available to the family. So then the net benefit to the family is not there. They're not reducing the amount they have to actually pay for their education by the amount of the scholarship. So that's a question I would encourage people to ask about their institution and
Hmm.
what private scholarships mean for the institution. Will that benefit their what's required to be spent by the family, their family contribution, or does it come off of the financial need of the organization? And I know this has been something that has been talked about on our state level, and I believe there's a bill that's supposed to come out of committee in the next few weeks to prohibit that practice in public institutions, so
Hmm.
that private scholarships must come from the family portion of what's expected for the tuition and fees.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So then, in essence, if that were applied against you, you get the scholarship, but it just wouldn't help. So it just is kind of a
Correct. It would just reduce the amount of financial aid that's coming from
Mhm.
the institution, but the bottom line number that the family is expected to pay for the education is the same. There's no net benefit to the student.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And if somebody wanted your thoughts or advice on applying for scholarships, or any strategies you would share for students applying for scholarships. I mean, you look and find what you can and see if it fits, but is there anything beyond that, any strategy or insight?
I don't know that I have any particular insight. Again, just understanding what that means when for your institution, get that information first so you know whether that private scholarship is going to benefit you. But also, I would look at a lot of organizations give scholarships for the first year. So making sure that you continue to look for continued funding for that 4 year. We do encourage our donors to think about the total cost of the program and not just the first year of education. So that's something I would look at. And there are organizations that fund the second, third, and fourth year and not the first year because of that, to fill in those gaps for students. Their guidance counselors obviously have a lot of information. All school guidance counselors are very well versed in how to help with that. And then once they are in the institution, making sure that they stay up to date with that and working with their local college offices on additional scholarships or internships, paid internships program, things that can help, work study, things that can also help with the payment of those tuition and fees.
It's very helpful. You indicated you made a job shift after your youngest was it out of college or out of
At high school? Yeah.
All right. So I didn't ask this earlier. How many children do you have?
2.
Are both out of college now?
Yes, our daughter is in Charlotte, and she graduated from Elon University and just got her master's degree through George Washington University. So she's a public health.
Okay. So then I would ask you this question, perhaps as a lawyer or holder of MBA or your position or a mother, but what advice might you offer somebody with regard to their college age student generally? What sort of tip for a parent whose student's looking at college this fall?
Well, I think it's important to have very realistic conversations about the cost of higher education and what the goal of the student is. And I am someone who recognizes that college is not necessarily only about career readiness. That there is an experiential and a thinking and a critical thinking component to college that is very valuable. That's not just about college readiness, but being realistic about what type of loans can be supported from the career path that you're seeking, and what are some ways to maybe reduce the cost of that. Community colleges, other dual enrollment opportunities, AP courses that might reduce the number of credits that are due. Other ways to look at reducing some of the cost of that education is also helpful. But just, again, being realistic about how much you can pay out of pocket and how much debt you can carry. Because that's a lot for a lot of young people. They have hundreds of thousands of dollars of debts, and that's not how it was when I went to school. I don't know about you, but that was not something I had to experience. So I did have some debt coming out of law school, but it was not, overwhelming, and didn't prevent me from also being able to buy a house and get other credit. But those days it is much different now. And I think it's good to be realistic about that and think about, can I do 2 years of community college and then do, a 4-year degree somewhere?
Just a comment, and then I do have a question from somebody that's watching with us, but my comment might be this: part of the other shows that I've done, and I gave you some background on the shows and the individuals that I've spoken with, one of the central issues that has continued to arise is that point of having the key conversation on what might be a tough issue, to understand it and to strategize. And that occurs with regard to estate planning generally. You have to face it, you have to plan, you create that plan that protects people. I talk about it relative to documents with non-minor adult children, so 18, 19-year-olds going to school, getting documents in place so parents can help them, like a power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney. And interestingly, your advice led out with a conversation about the financial aspects, which would include what you're borrowing, what might be being paid, how much you're spending, Is it efficient and effective spending? So
Right.
interesting that you would key in on that. But that's probably, if I had to look at it, and maybe you would agree, one of the big challenges is people struggle to get those conversations done. And it really should be one of the first things you do, and just you plow through it and deal with it.
Yeah, and it's hard when you're, especially when your child is excited and, is in love with a particular institution and school that's their dream college, but it's $60,000 a year.
Hmm.
Um, how realistic is that? Again, it's just challenging.
Okay. So I have a question. What opportunities relative to scholarships might exist for homeschooled children? Can you offer any thoughts on that?
All of our scholarships would be available for homeschooled individuals as well, except for those that go directly through the Dollars for Scholars. Then you would have to look at that Dollars for Scholars chapter to see what's available to them. But
Hmm.
all of our scholarships would be available to all seniors seeking, going into college. We also have some scholarships for non-traditional students. So not just high school seniors, but maybe people who have been in the workforce and are now going back for another, um, to retrain or to get a degree. So those are available as well.
Hmm. Okay. So again, look to see where you want to go. Um, Public school, homeschooled, start to look for those opportunities. And it sounds like some of it's based upon prior achievement, perhaps current need, and future interest.
Correct,
It depends
correct.
on what you
And
want to
some
do.
are community service based. So if
Hmm.
you're a homeschool student who has a lot of community involvement, been when working in your community, there might be some scholarships available in that as well. So again, making sure that you're looking in all of those areas.
Okay. Well, we focused somewhat on what a parent might do with regard to their student. What if somebody wants to be supportive of college students generally? If somebody came in and said, "I have an interest in
Right.
supporting college students," to you, how would you approach that as vice president of development at the foundation?
Well, I would ask them, what their interest really is. Are they interested in supporting students in your county? What is their goal in trying to get kids back into your county? Are they interested in supporting a particular career path like agriculture or dentistry or the
Hmm.
medical field or something like that? And look at what are the ways that we can best partner with that. And are they looking for a particular geographic area? Are they looking to support students from their alma mater here, like in Northeastern or Southeastern or something like that?
Hmm.
And I would also ask people, is it something that they're looking at that maybe they want to consider supporting more broadly and not just scholarships, but for example, keeping opportunities for music in schools. So do you want to support your music association in your school or the youth symphony, things like that? Are there opportunities to support programs that provide these experiential opportunities and career study more broadly so more students have the opportunity to learn about it in high school and in the community before making that decision? So we do
Hmm.
like to talk about that. Are you interested in just making sure people can go to college, or you're interested in making sure people have the opportunities locally to experience what they might want to be and get an idea of their career path?
It's exciting. So they could talk to you or another at the foundation, get information, and then you referenced the website earlier, which I have seen and I envision has lots of information on
It does.
existing and potential opportunities.
Yes, yes. So
Great.
again, we like to just match what our donors' real interest are, just understanding what they want to achieve and
Okay.
help them with that.
And I asked that question in the context of college students, but I imagine your answer would be similar if it were causes other than college students, such as outdoors or the rail trail or
Absolutely.
animals or other things.
Yeah. Is there an issue that you're looking at? Are there particular organizations that you're more prone to? Um, is it your church that you want to support? What are the things that you're looking for? And then also talk to them about, what is it that they want to have as their legacy? When
Hmm.
people when they're gone, what is the one thing they want people to know that was important to them? And
Hmm.
look at it that way as well. It was important for me that people had the ability to participate in our outdoor recreation. So I want to support our parks. Or
Hmm.
it's just important to me to know that the community foundation is here to meet the needs that I'm not even thinking about. So I want to want to support the fund for your county. I want to have my name attached to supporting this community. What is it that you want your last message to people to be?
Excellent. Well, Mary Kay, I told you that you wouldn't disappoint with the information you provide, and you haven't.
I hope not.
I'm about to finish up our show. Is there anything else you'd like to add? And you don't need to because you hit a lot, but I'm going to give you that last final shot if there's anything you want to mention.
Well, as always, yes, please check out our website and feel free to just call. We're available and ask any questions. Again, we're here to answer questions and point you into directions. We want to match make for people, put you in touch with where you can make your biggest impact.
Wonderful. Well, I know the foundation has been a critical part of our community. It's only getting more important. I knew I was excited when you joined a few years ago. I'm excited that you're going to be unleashed on the community now post-pandemic, and I'm sure you're going to do great things. And again, Mary Kay, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for sharing the information, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.